What's up everyone, back for another beer review, and today I'll be reviewing a beer from the Smuttynose Brewing Company, and they are out of Hampton, New Hampshire, and this is their Big A Double IPA, and this is the 30th anniversary edition. So this is a double IPA that comes in at 8.5% alcohol by volume, 85 IBUs at the time of review. I don't know exactly how old this can is, but it does have a best by date of July 26th of 2024. We're just over 2 weeks away from that date, so we should be good to go according to the brewery, although flying in just under the gun. And I also should note that on Instagram, on I think it was May 15th, they posted the return of this one. So I would assume that this is no older than 3 months old and probably closer to like 6 weeks to 2 months old. Maybe they did different batches of this one. I have a funny feeling they give like 60 days, maybe 75 days. So whatever, we're fine. Best by date says we're about a little over 2 weeks away from that. We're good. Anyway, full disclosure, I've never had this beer before. I've drank a lot of Smuttynose beer in my life, but back when this one was popular and I saw it on the shelves all the time back in the early to mid 2010s, like between like 2012 to like 2014, 2015, I was not a huge hop forward beer lover. So this used to come in the big 22 fluid ounce bombers, and I wanted nothing to do with it. And you're talking an 8+% huge double IPA that's 22 fluid ounces worth. Not for me back then. However, my palate has kind of matured to some degree. Not really, it's still terrible. But yeah, I want to try this one out because I never had it. They brought it back. It's the 30th anniversary edition. I'm here for it. So it just says Smuttinose's original double IPA that helped kick off the IPA craze. So hops. Let me see if I can remember these. Magnum, Bravo, Zeus, Citra, Saphir, and Falconer's Flight. I think that's right. You can check in the description box, but I'm pretty sure those are the hops. But anyway, I'm expecting a big old school double IPA, talking, you know, bready, caramel malt, bunch of citrus, resinous pine, things of that nature. Let's hope anyway, because that's what I'm all about nowadays. Wow. Why does that sound so carbonated? Sounds kind of wild. It's like fizzing like soda pop. Interesting. Now, because this is the 30th anniversary edition, I don't know if they've done anything different to this one. Like if they changed up any hops. I went to their website and that's pretty much what they showed, the hops I talked about, and had kind of the same spiel, so to speak. So yeah, that has a beautiful, like bright, vibrant orange color. It's going to look dull on camera, so fuck me. But yeah, it has in person a nice, vibrant orange color. Has just over 2 fingers of this real nice, I'd say off-white colored head that has a little bit of soap suds, a little bit of creaminess to it. Has a little bit of haze there, but you know, you can see, I'm pretty sure you can see the shadow of my hand, maybe not make out specifically. So this kind of has more of a hazy look to it. I would imagine that the beer didn't look like this when they originally brewed this one. It was probably crystal clear, but I mean, you know, for a big double IPA at 8.5%, I think it looks really, really nice. So let's get a nose and we'll see. Yeah, it smells like an old school East Coast like double IPA. Like maybe not quite in the realm of like a 90-minute IPA from Dogfish Head or anything, but like it's just like if you picture an older school like Imperial IPA from an East Coast brewery. I'm talking going back 10 plus years. It has a beautiful mixture of, there's huge bready kind of malt character, a little bit of caramel, even a touch of like a honey sweetness or perceived sweetness. Then it has a lot of citrus, mostly like orange, the rind, the pith, grapefruit, big heavy grapefruit, like white grapefruit. And then a resinous like floral pine character, maybe a touch of an earthiness. It smells really nice. It smells fresh though. Like if this is 2+ months old, then it smells really nice, especially for an older school IPA. There's even a little bit of like a tropical sweetness, perceived sweetness. Can't smell sweetness, but like an overripened pineapple, maybe a mango, something in that realm. Anyway, it smells really nice. Let's get into it. Cheers, everyone. Yeah, that's nice. Very akin, again, to very old school double IPAs. Wow. Yeah, this is bringing me back because I took that sip and I was like, oh, very nice. And as I just sat here for 5-10 minutes, I was like, oh, nice old school, blah, blah, blah. There's this resinous pine floral kind of bitterness on the back of the palate, gripping the back of my tongue. Pretty cool. Mine, this is higher side of medium, lower side of full, 8.5%, appropriate. The mouthfeel, it's moderately carbonated, so it has a nice crispness to it. It's smooth as a whole, so I think the body and mouthfeel are appropriate for what this beer is. The taste, nose carried over for the most part. There's a little bit of subtleties that I'm noticing in the taste that weren't there in the nose, and we'll talk about them, but first thing that hits me up front is more like this nice white bread, sourdough bread, just bready malt character. It's not like a lot of old school IPAs back in the day would have like a lot of caramel malt. You know, I think a lot of people talk about like crystal malt obviously gives you a lot of that caramel characteristic from the malt. That doesn't have this here. This is more bready, biscuity, but more bread, like a white bread, sourdough bread, something in that realm. Hits me at the forefront, dives underneath the palate, carries the hops throughout the palate. Right after that, it's citrus. It's again orange and grapefruit, but it encompasses the entire fruit, both fruits. So rind, pith, zest, juiciness, it's all there. The first half of the palate. On the second half of the palate for me, I do get a little bit of that like touch of like a pineapple or a mango, not like perfectly ripened, but just a little bit. It's not too big. On the finish, it has this, I'd say, firm bitterness. It's not too big. Now, my palate is starting to get acclimated to it, so it's not like over the top. Like my initial visceral reaction was like, oh man, I'm starting to, grip my tongue and it's fucking, full on bitter. It's not that. As I continue to drink on it, it's starting to die down a bit, but it does have a firm, like moderate bitterness, which is what you kind of expect from this one. It also has, again, a floral resinous pine kind of quality on the finish. It's semi to full on dry, but it's more bitter than dry. This definitely leans to the bitter dry side of things as opposed to a big sweet 8.5% double IPA. This is not your hazies of the world. This is definitely old school in its soul. So if you don't like bitterness, then stay away from this one, I would say, because this definitely is one of those old school beers that's really nice. Again, this is the 30th anniversary edition. I mentioned the hops. Now, I don't know if the hops are one of those things where they change it up for this 30th anniversary edition. I have no idea. However, those are a lot of old school hops I was talking about. Outside of like Citra, I'm talking, a lot of old school hops. Oh, I guess Saphir is probably not that old school. But, Falconer's Flight, which is a bunch of the C hops in there. The Bravos, the Magnums, the Zeuses. Those are all like bittering hops. Hops you don't see a lot specifically for like, haze bombs nowadays. So I don't know if they've maybe tweaked this a little bit. Maybe they're using more Citra. I don't know. But this has a little bit of a new school influence, but still about 80% old school. Oh yeah, 8.5%. Let me tell you. The only reason I know this is bigger is because the body. And I think the flavors and the impactfulness of the flavors, the intensity of the flavors. But I'm only getting a little bit of warming in the chest. So it hides it relatively well. And I would imagine if I went back 10 to 15 years, probably didn't hide it as well as it does in this one right here. Really nice. It's not setting a new standard. It's not blowing me away, but let me tell you, it's Smuttynose. And Smuttynose has been through some tough times. Or that the road with it, maybe hard times for Smuttynose over the last like 4 or 5 years. I'm gonna stop talking like Dusty Rhodes because it's a terrible impersonation. I don't know what I'm doing. I do a little bit of lift and I think I'm Dusty Rhodes. I'm not. Anyway, Smuttynose is, I think they went bankrupt. They got bought. I think they got bought by like I forget who bought them, but it wasn't like anybody in the, I don't think, brewing industry. It was like a firm of some sort. But this just shows they can still make quality beer. They're robust porters, still I think one of the best porters brewed in America to date. Their Finest Kind was one of the first IPAs I enjoyed, like the first half dozen IPAs I enjoyed. And they're like old brown dog, really old brown dog. Like they make some good beers. So if they're bringing back a lot of these classic ones and they're doing it the right way, I'm really stoked because Smuttynose makes good beers. At least they used to before they went through everything. So this, even though I've never had it before, I think this is pretty fucking delicious. I don't think it's amazing, but I think it's really tasty. So I'm going to give a Big A Double IPA, the 30th anniversary edition. I'm going to give this a high 4 out of 5. I'm going to go 4.1. I think it's a really nice beer. And if you like old school double IPAs, like some of my fellow beer tubers, like Paul over at PA Brew News, I think he'd really enjoy this one. I think it'd have enough bitterness. Even somebody like Joe Senegalia, Joe, did I say it right? Probably. If you watch this, Joe, then you could just tell me. Just stop trying to say your last name, pronounce it incorrectly every single time. But Joe's Arcade, he would appreciate like this. He likes the West Coast like IPAs, but I think he would appreciate something like this. This kind of gives me like kind of Vermont double IPA vibes too. Like it just has that kind of quality to it. So yeah, I'm really excited that I picked this one up and reviewed it. So anyway, and again, you have the old school boxer there, or maybe bare knuckle guy throwing a punch. It's big A. I think that A stands for ass, big ass out of double IPA. But anyway, we're gonna throw this over here. Price point availability, I think I paid like $3.50 or $3.75 for that can. I want to say 4 packs are probably in that. I hope that comes off on camera. Sounds like some crotch rocket bikes going a little bit too fast on my road. You shouldn't be going that fast. Anyway, I think I want to say like 4 packs of this are probably in that like $14 to $16 realm. I picked this one up at Brewed and Bottled, Lewiston, New York, one of my favorite local bottle shops. Shout out to Chris. And I know Chris was digging on this one. The reason I picked this one up is I saw his check-in and I was like, holy shit, that beer's back. I'm going to grab it. He really dug it. So shout out to Chris for the inspiration to buy this one and also carrying it because that's where I bought it from. But anyway, yeah, I think it's like $14, $16 a 4-pack. Availability is Smuttynose. I have no idea at this point. Maybe they have a beer finder on their website. I could not tell you. I couldn't even begin to tell you where Smuttynose gets distribution at this point. We don't see a bunch of it here. Sometimes I go into my local Wegmans grocery store. There'll be a fucking, there'll be an old brown dog. There'll be Finest Kind, maybe the Robust Porter. Sometimes I show up and there's nothing at a beer store or Wegmans. So it's hit or miss. But this, you got 2 weeks. By the time I post this review, you maybe have like a week and a half or something. But I think it's a good beer. Now, here's where I ask you to please post in the comment section if you've had this one before. However, if you've had this one before, and then you had this new 30th anniversary edition, what did you think? Very similar, maybe not. I can't speak to that because I didn't have the OG, but this definitely drinks like a early to mid 2010s beer with a little bit of new school influence, and I'm okay with that. So like I said, 8.5%, you really can't tell. I think this is damn tasty. So I recommend this to anybody who can get Smuttynose, especially if you like old school double IPAs from the East Coast or just old school double IPAs in general. So I'm going to shut this one down. I appreciate everybody stopping by for another beer review here on the Beer Patrol. To the next one. Cheers.